While most astrologers would agree that earthquake activity is more prominent on or around or after lunation cycles such as a solar or lunar eclipse, supermoon, blood moon, or full moon, scientists still haven't cracked the magic code either. They're more accurate at predicting aftershocks rather than the actual quake themselves. Scientists rely more on the patterns of frequency and fault line connections. Some even are testing magnetic and electrical charges in rock material. Plus, now that we've introduced fracking into the equation, there's even more unpredictability. Neither science nor astrology has nailed the prediction technique better than one reliable creature who gets it right nearly 96% of the time. If they could only capture them for an interview and learn their language, and that's the common toad. According to a 2010 article in the Journal of Zoology, before an earthquake struck in L'Aquila, Italy in 2009, toads as far as 46 miles away abandoned their breeding site and headed out of town. One sad note, if only the oil companies would do that. One sad note on that quake in Italy is that 7 scientists of the Great Risk Commission were convicted of manslaughter on October 22, 2012. Geez, they're not even astrologers. But maybe they went to prison for another reason. Actually, they should be getting out about now. But maybe they just didn't use it. The reason? Possibly fracking. After all, it's showing up nearly every 45 degrees. Turn your head in any direction within 45 degrees, and I'm sure you'll be able to point to a fracking area. The verdict drew ire and condemnation from seismologists and other earth scientists around the globe. The idea is ridiculous. To hold scientists responsible for public policy, said Chris Goldfinger, no relation to the Bond guy, a professor of geophysics at Oregon State University, on the day of the verdict. First, scientists have almost zero ability to predict earthquakes, and second, they have no direct responsibility for public policy, nor the world. You cannot be responsible for Mother Nature. Something has gone seriously wrong in the Italian legal system, so he says. Perhaps something has gone wrong, not only in the legal system of Italy, but systems all over the planet that protect corporations capable of increasing earthquakes that would be less likely to erupt if there was less hydraulic fracturing. In fact, an article in Bloomberg Business, August of 2013, states that earthquakes in Texas were tied to extraction and based upon seismograph stations that were set up. Earthquakes in both Oklahoma and Texas were found to be related to wastewater underground injections and have warned that long-term risks could be devastational to the environment. So, predicting the next quake is, at this point, a crapshoot. But we know one thing, it's here to stay until people unite and put a halt to the process of fracking. At this point, we also know that the only thing that makes fracking controversial is the profit that is accrued. Chesapeake and Enron are household names for starters, and anyone else who gets aboard the Fortune 500 train. The goal is to ride into any town, anywhere, with the promise of an American dream, big jobs, great futures, then pack up and leave a mess and go elsewhere once the towns are drained bone dry. You can research this in a book called Snake Oil by Richard Heinberg. And now look at this. As I look at it, what's it look like to you? I see a mess before me. I'm starting to ponder the theory that there is a magnetic connection directly related between these earthquakes that happens almost precisely at 90 degree and 180 degree angles. But even so, it's almost looking like every 45 degrees. Just look at the connections here. It's like a kid's drawing when you connect the dots and the pattern begins to repeat itself over and over, and it's getting bigger and bigger. We're not even under a major eclipse or a major square between Uranus and Pluto. They're still happening. So I suppose that, from an astrologer standpoint, might have an effect, might bear some harmonic stress along with the approaching full moon in Scorpio, if it were a natural occurrence. But in many cases, we're finding it's not. If just for a moment we dispersed with those astrological factors and focused, and maybe even the scientific factors, all they have are gauges that tell us that something is shaking. and you barely have time to run. You have maybe 10 seconds before the alarm goes off. Where are you gonna go? Where are you gonna go? So if just for a moment we dispersed with all those factors and focused on this planet alone having its own polarities within, predictability can almost certainly be determined with the range of those angular separations. At least that's what I'm going on right now. I could change my mind just like this map tomorrow, because many of these quakes have been simultaneous and practically synchronized, almost detonated at 45 degree separations. I've also noticed that the quakes are getting bigger, stronger, all along the west coast up into Alaska. A few days ago, they were at 3 mags, and as the pressure has been building up from the volcanoes, they continue to build. It's almost likely, as with Russia and Tokyo's earthquakes today, that another bigger quake or volcanic eruption is probable. We've been watching them go off everywhere. Question is, when will it be in the U.S.? Friends, gather around me here today and say a prayer for the old USA. We're not out of the dark yet, and we won't be as long as big oil keeps robbing us all blind. Best bet, here's what you can do. You can start carrying toads, prep survival kits everywhere you go, because your guess is as good as mine.